This is how the first round of fantasy football should go in 2025. I've projected out all the players in fantasy, and these are the top 12. And I want to specify before we get into it, if you're in a wide receiver heavy league, meaning you're starting 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs in a flex, you want to focus more on wide receivers. If you're in a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, you want to focus more on running backs in the first couple rounds. Also, half PPR, big boost to guys like Derrick Henry. If you're in full PPR, wide receivers go up, CMC, Achane, they go up. Obviously, play by the league you're in. Now, with that in mind, we're going to start with our 12th overall player. And by the way, these are full PPR. All these projections, the points per game, everything, full PPR. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, with Amon-Ra, last year, he was pretty good, but it was a weird year for him. He just scored so many touchdowns. And with an offense that lost 2 O-linemen and their offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, I would expect a step back. They also scored 33 points per game. That's got to come back. I'm sorry, but I don't see them going really near that. They're going to be good, but like 28 to 30 is already really great. 33, that's kind of an outlier. And for him, I'm not sure how many touchdowns he will get. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the focal point of this offense. I think Jameson Williams, his role will probably grow a little bit more too. They're going to want to open up the field, and I'm not sure they're going to be quite stomping teams like they're used to. So they might be throwing a little bit more, which is good for him. In terms of PPR, you'll see I have him at 119 receptions. Without showing the rest, I think that's 4th on the list, so it's higher than some of the guys above him. But you'll see his yards are fairly low, and his targets I docked a good amount. He had 12 last year. I got him at 8.5 this year. I just think that's the type of regression we'll see. Now, the 11th player is our first running back on the list. This is going to be Achane. Now, when Tua was healthy last year, Mr. Achane was absolutely insane. I'll bring up his stats from last year right here. He was averaging 22 points per game when Tua was in. Now, there's a bunch of games where Tua missed or didn't fully complete, and this offense was really, really weird. It was completely different from the year before. He only averaged 4.5 yards per carry. You'll see I brought that up to 5.1. His rookie year, it was over 7. Obviously, that's a complete outlier, but last year it was a tale of kind of 2 halves of the season. He started off in the low 4s, to like averaging 3 yards a carry in some of these games at the beginning, and then he worked that yards per carry up to the 4.5 mark. So at the end, they kind of got it together a little bit more. And the main thing with Achane, I got him at 68 receptions. He had over 70 last year. I don't think he'll be quite as efficient. Like last year, he only had like 10 targets that didn't result in receptions. It was like 88 targets, 77 receptions or something like that. That's going to regress a little bit. Plus, I don't think they're going to be such a cheesy offense as they were last year. That's why I like Tyreek Hill so much this year as well. I think that Jonnu leaving will help both of them for at least taking into account all the short checkdowns, but I think the offense is going to open up more, and Achane's going to go back to one of the most efficient running backs in the league. He's going to have more goal line work than I think we've seen in years past. You'll see I have him at 8.5 rushing touchdowns, 4.5 receiving touchdowns. He actually hasn't had more than 8 rushing touchdowns yet in his career, which kind of seems crazy if you ask me. Like, I mean, Raheem Mostert got all of the ones in 2023, and then last year they just did not have any chances on the goal line. The main concern with this team is their offensive line, but I can't really see that being quite as bad as it was last year. I don't think it's going to be like a top 10 unit, but I don't think it'll be quite as bad as it was last year, although they are having a good amount of injuries in training camp so far. Now we'll move on to our 10th player, going back to wide receiver. We got Nico Collins. He's a tricky one because I almost feel like he's better in half PPR because you'll see I have him at 105 receptions, but he's going to get a ton of yards. His yards per catch is way downfield. His ADOT is way further downfield than a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown. And last year, through the first 5 or so weeks, he was the wide receiver 1, man. Before he got hurt, he was absolutely balling. And you got to look at his points per game last year and give it a little bit of a boost. It's at like 17.6, but it's realistically more close to 20 because he left 3 games without playing like half the game. It was like 18% snaps, 40% snaps, 45% snaps, and he left early in all of those games. So realistically, he's a top 5 wide receiver or so, averaging about 20 points per game. The problem with the Texans that I don't love, it's kind of the Justin Jefferson conundrum from last year, where when your defense is so good, you're going to kind of get punished as a wide receiver because you're just not going to have to throw in the second half of these games. You saw Jefferson last year get like 18 points per game in the first half. I'm obviously exaggerating a little bit, and then that fell off completely in the second half. Whereas Ja'Marr Chase and the year before, CeeDee Lamb, when your defense isn't that great and you're able to just chuck the ball a ton, you're just going to get more targets. It's just simple math like that. When your defense is too good, it hurts you. He is going to be the only real target on this offense. I mean, some people like the rookies they have. Christian Kirk's okay, but Nico's going to be that guy. And I wouldn't be surprised if he crushes my projections here. Like, he's that good of a player. He's the closest thing to Julio Jones we have in the league right now. I'll show you guys the stats from last year real quick. But I just think that the defense docks it enough where, yeah, you'll see 17 points per game. That's not completely true. Take out those outliers. But yeah, we'll move on to the next guy at 9, our next wide receiver. You'll see that I'm a little more favorable to the running backs. It's Puka Nacua. Puka's dealing with Stafford having a back injury right now. I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. Matthew Stafford's always dealing with injuries. And this one, it seems like they're not too worried about. It's something they've been dealing with for a while, but they've been keeping it under control for a while. Now, last year, you'll see 18 points per game. That doesn't include that he, once again, another guy just like Nico, he left a bunch of games early or didn't play them fully. He averaged 23 points per game in the games he played fully. And he is by far the most efficient wide receiver the league has ever seen in his first 2 years. Now, you're going to see most fantasy points per route run right here. His yards per route run, number 1. Formation adjusted yards per route run, number 1. This dude is just an absolute freak of nature. And he did it in his first year too. His target rate is number 1 in the league. I mean, goodness gracious. When he is on the field, he's going to get a boatload of work. The only problem you'll see with Puka Nacua is really the red zone work. His receiving touchdowns, 0.27 a game. It's atrocious, honestly. I don't know why they don't look at him in the red zone. They seem to absolutely love Kyron Williams, and they loved Cooper Kupp in the red zone, and I'm afraid it only gets worse. That's why I can't put Puka higher, is because Devontae Adams is a goat in the red zone. His short to intermediate route running is absolutely insane, and I don't see why that connection with Stafford would not formulate in the red zone. He's just straight up a better route runner than Puka, and he's going to get the work in the red zone. He's a more savvy veteran. It's just going to happen, unfortunately. I do have Puka getting 7.5 touchdowns, which is above his highest of his career. His averages, I believe he had 3 and 6 in his first 2 years. 3 and 6. I have it higher than that, but it's really hard to imagine it getting like too much higher when they love Kyron. They just extended him. Like, if you wanted to say they were going to leave Kyron in the dust and use Jaquez Hunter more and Blake Corum more, maybe. It doesn't seem like it's happening. But 18.8 points per game, very, very solid. Could definitely be higher. If anything happens to Devontae Adams, by the way, this dude, it's kind of like the Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery thing. This dude will average like 24 points per game. Like, if Puka's the only good wide receiver on this team, Matthew Stafford is not shy about giving his wide receiver 20 targets in a single game. He's one of the few exceptions to that rule. Then we got number 8, Justin Jefferson. We'll bring up his stuff from last year. And like I was saying before, when the defense is just too good, 18.7 points per game, that's just too low for him. This was actually a career year for him in touchdowns, I believe. Let me bring it up on here so you guys can see his efficiency metrics. Justin Jefferson. Great site, by the way, Player Profiler, if you want to use it. So last year he did break out with 10 touchdowns, but his receiving yards were down. His targets were down from, peak Justin Jefferson, 184 targets. Last year the leader was Ja'Marr Chase with 175. But we're just not seeing anything close to that. Now you also have to factor in, could we see some issues with J.J. McCarthy? He's looked a little bit rough in training camp so far. I'm not going to look too much into that because really it doesn't matter too much what they do in training camp. But could be something to worry about. I think Kevin O'Connell is the best quarterback coach in the league. Every quarterback that goes in there, whether it's Joshua Dobbs, whether it's Nick Mullins, whoever it is, Sam Darnold, they're all going to break out. They're all going to throw at a good amount. But I will say I want them to go back to when they had Nick Mullins and they were throwing like 42 times a game instead of what they did last year when the defense was too good. The defense did fall apart a little bit towards the end of the year. So, hey, maybe the Brian Flores scheme has been found out a little bit. Maybe we're going to get a JJ breakout year where he does push the top 3 wide receivers for targets. But right now, it's a little bit hard for me to put him there. Plus, he's dealing with a hamstring injury. I don't know why I didn't bring that up straight away, but he's not going to be ready until week 1. I'm sure he'll be like ready before that, but they won't be practicing him, they said, or playing him at all in like the preseason until week 1. So that's a little bit worrisome because like last year with CMC, I was somebody, and pretty much the whole industry, we kind of ignored how serious CMC's injury was. They didn't let on how serious it was. But honestly, hearing that a wide receiver isn't going to play until week 1, it's kind of worrisome. I know they're trying to be cautious, but like that's kind of bad. So we should probably be a little bit aware of that. We'll move on to the next guy. And this one might be shocking for a lot of people. It's Malik Nabers. And you'll see the reason He's a little bit lower than JJ in yards. Same touchdowns, way worse yards per catch because JJ is a good downfield threat. You got the little bit of rushing yards because this matters for some players. But the difference is the total receptions. The target numbers are going to be different. He did lead the league in targets per game last year, Malik Nabers did. And I don't see why that wouldn't happen again. There's literally no one else on that team. If we just go back to the first 4 weeks of last season, before the whole O-line got hurt, before he got concussions, before the offense had to completely change with no Andrew Thomas, they had to just be like a little dink and dunk offense, okay? That shouldn't happen again. Russell Wilson is there to throw him some absolute deep bombs. They look great in training camp, by the way. I think Malik and him are going to have a good connection. And if anything does happen, hopefully we have a quarterback upgrade in Jackson Dart, who's not afraid to let it fly either. So the first 4 weeks last year, he was averaging 24 points per game. He was going completely nuts. I wonder how many targets per game was he getting last year at the very beginning. This cool little feature here on Flock Fantasy. Got to promote my boy Fantasy Flock. You can select the time frame, and he was getting 13 targets over the first 4 weeks. I mean, that is diabolical. 13 targets per game. That's really some special stuff right there. So that's why I have him so high. I don't see why that would change. He is dealing with a toe injury, so maybe that's a reason you want to stay away from him. It seems like it's been something he's been dealing with for a while and hasn't inhibited him. He's still practicing at least. He's not like JJ completely sitting out. So I'm not as worried about him as I would be with JJ. Then we move on to finally another running back, right? We have a big slide of running backs here. Jahmyr Gibbs is up. I think we're going to see a little bit of regression here in terms of the touchdowns. I mean, 20 is just crazy. We can't expect a guy to just rack up 20 touchdowns every single year. That's just not something you can predict, obviously. But I have him being very efficient. Yards per carry, 5.3. Yards per reception, 8.7. Very, very good metrics. Rushing touchdowns, still 12.5 with 2.5 in the receiving out. I'm projecting the dude for 15. I mean, that's very, very fair. The problem is I gave him a boost in his attempts per game. He's averaged, I believe it was 12-ish to 13 his rookie year, and then last year was just about 14. I gave him a little bit of a boost there. I think he is going to be the starter. They mentioned that he, on the depth chart, is the starter. Last year, they would always give Dave Montgomery the first drive. Now it looks like they're going to give Gibbs the first drive. I would have had him even more efficient and kept his touchdown numbers higher if they didn't lose the two interior O-linemen, the center and the guard. That's a huge deal. And then obviously Ben Johnson. There are a lot of effects from that. The offense will be different. I think you'll give him more volume, but as the trade-off, kind of like Devon Achane last year, the trade-off will be he will be less efficient. That's just how it goes. Now, moving on to number 5. I'm a little surprised at this. I thought I would have him as my number 2 running back, but when I did do the projections, I have him at number 3 because I didn't quite realize something about the number 2 guy. Now, Bijan Robinson's at number 3. I gave him a good amount of attempts per game. I actually boosted him from what he had last year because the way it worked last year, he didn't get enough attempts per game at the start, and then at the end, he got a ton, especially when Michael Penix was playing. I would think this year, though, when Michael Penix grows into form, they're going to lean on him in an equal fashion to Bijan, but it was clear at the end of last year, Bijan had all of his games were above 20 touches, and he had one at the end in Week 18 where it was 28 attempts in the game. I got him at a decent amount of receptions, obviously. He's going to be very good in the receiving game. I don't think he'll be quite the CMC Achane level where I have Achane at 68, but there's more upside. He has a higher tier where he can get 75, 80. Whereas Bijan, I'm not quite sure about that. I don't know if Penix will be that much of a dink and dunk guy. I think he wants to stretch the field more, get Drake London running some big boy routes finally in his career. And then I got a little bit of a lower touchdown number for Bijan. He did beat that last year. I just think that the offense won't be quite as amazing as the Lions, as the 49ers, as the Eagles. So got him a little lower. His yards per carry is also a little lower than the other guys just because this offense, once again, their offensive line isn't quite as good, and I don't think they'll be that. I mean, I say 4.7 isn't great. That's a very fine number. It's just the other guys we're dealing with are just insane. 5.1 for Devon and 5.3 for Jahmyr. Now we'll move on to the man that I want to talk about, Saquon Barkley. He's my number 2 running back, my 4th overall pick. The thing with Saquon, I honestly couldn't believe he averaged 21.6 attempts per game last year, and he left multiple games early because they were either blowing out a team. I guess that was all. He didn't really get injured last year, but they were completely blowing out teams, and he missed the Week 17 game because it didn't matter. Or I guess it was Week 18 technically. Saquon Barkley, I gave him a little bit of a dock, 21.4. I think that he will be sitting out less games than he had to last year, but I don't think he'll be getting quite the insane amount of carries last year because I think the Eagles offense will kind of go back, not all the way to the middle where it's a 50-50 run-pass split, but like last year they were so damn run-heavy. Like it's really hard to be that run-heavy, and I can't imagine that they're going to be completely whipping teams as badly as they did last year every single week. It's just the way regression works. I mean, guys, 364 carries is still absolutely outrageous. I'm not doing the guy dirty. He's about to get for like close to another 2,000 yards. He could do it pretty easily. And I got him at 12.5 touchdowns. Maybe we do see some regression here where he doesn't fall down at the 1 yard line like 10 times and Jalen Hurts just takes all those rushing touchdowns. Maybe he does have a 18 rushing touchdown season because Jalen doesn't get all those carries. Like that's very well in the possibility of things. The main thing holding him back, which would completely send him over the edge, is if for some reason he got more receptions. I actually gave him a lot more receptions than he had last year. 1.5 receiving touchdowns, nothing crazy. Very, very efficient stats here. But if he got more receptions, that would put him in that echelon of number 2 guy. I'm sure you guys all know who it is based on who I like, but it'll put him in that echelon of like what he can really do. He did it that first year on the Giants with 91 receptions. Since then, he's not even come close to that. He's averaging around like 50, and then when he gets to the Eagles, last year he had way less than that. So yeah, if that came up, that would be the thing that set him apart. Now, our wide receiver 2, our pick number 3 overall, he was Mr. Thumbnail. I know, a little bit of a clickbait thing to do there. But CeeDee and the guy I have at number 1 are so close in points per game that it was like it can go either way. The fun fact is CeeDee Lamb over the past 2 years actually averages more points per game than Jahmyr Chase, which is kind of crazy to think about. But last year, he was hurt. Dak was hurt. The offense was absolutely atrocious. The defense was ranked 31 in the league. Like everything went wrong with this Cowboys team, and they didn't have to care anymore. Now, this year, he gets a little bit of help from George Pickens, kind of like the T. Higgins, Jahmyr Chase effect. The defense is still going to be absolutely terrible. Micah Parsons may leave, even if he stays. Doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, but the defense will still be very bad. So I could see him competing with Jahmyr Chase in terms of routes run because they just have to have the offense on the field all the time, passing a ton. Jahmyr Chase, by the way, guys, 699 routes last year. In CeeDee Lamb's amazing season in 2023, I believe it was closer to like 600 like 10-ish. I'll bring it up here. It was at his routes run 606, which was 6th in the league. Jahmyr Chase was 699. Like what the Bengals did last year, I don't think they're going to quite be able to do that again. I'll talk about them more when I get to Chase, but basically I have CeeDee and Chase very close to each other. It could go either way. And I think that the Dak Prescott's kind of the next Joe Burrow. Like they're gonna just be passing so much that it'll equal out. Number 2, you guys may be shocked. Most of you probably aren't. It's CMC. And he's actually my highest projected player overall at 21.7, and this feels low for him. When he's fully healthy, you know he's averaging 24, 25 points per game, and he's the only guy in the league that can do that. If we can just reminisce real quick, let's go. Obviously, this past season, all the games were injured. He left early. Doesn't matter. Let's just reminisce a little bit. Let's just look at 2023 and 2022. Just real quick. Yeah, 22.7. If we just look at 2023, his only full season with the 49ers, 24.5. I mean, the dude is completely different than any other player. And I'm going to say this in every video. Guys, running backs get hurt. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. Like, Derrick Henry's an anomaly. Like, running backs get hurt. I talked about this years ago when no one wanted to take CMC over JT because they thought JT would never get hurt. JT's been hurt ever since then. CMC was healthy until last year. It's just the nature of the position. But when the guy's on the field, you'll see he wipes everybody else. I'm like docking his touchdowns. They have the easiest schedule in the league. 12.5 feels freakishly low for him. But is what it is. 70 receptions also, by the way, feels low. And he's still averaging 21.7. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Easiest schedule. Remember when he was averaging a touchdown per game a year ago? Are we going to be shocked when he's doing that again? I'm not. I'm willing to take the chance of the second overall pick, especially if I'm only drafting one league, which obviously I'm not doing. I'm in hundreds of best ball leagues. I'm probably in like 7 to 10 redraft leagues. I'm going to take him in most of them, pretty much all of them, because nobody else wants him. The number 1 player, though, is going to be Jahmyr Chase. I do have him lower in points per game, but the safetyness of wide receiver being a less injured position than running back. Once again, your league settings matter of who you take 101. If you're wide receiver heavy, take Chase. If you're running back heavy, I would take McCaffrey. You don't have to. You can take Saquon, whatever you want to do. But Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. You see, I actually have Nabers with the most receptions, Lamb next, then Chase, but Chase beats Lamb in touchdowns. That's why he gets the overall better projection at the end. But yeah, guys, if you want to see how round 2 goes, that should be the more interesting video because not many people cover the actual projections of round 2. Leave a like, drop a comment, leave a follow, and I'm enjoying making these videos for you guys. So hope you enjoy watching them, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.